Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kristian Roberts, Director of Education at the Dallas Opera, and I'm here with my fabulous colleague and co-host.
Quo Johnson, Education and Company Culture Manager for the Dallas Opera.
And we have returned yet again for another episode of Taking the Stage with Kristian
and Quo. One of the things we've started doing and one of the things we will continue to do is a land and people acknowledgement. We do this so that we can center truth, so that we can center responsibility, so that we can center connection. So I want to take this time right here, right now in this space to acknowledge that we in Dallas are on stolen land. We are on the land of the Caddo, of the Wichita, and of the Comanche sovereign nations. Nations that face genocide, policies, and horrible conditions that remove them forcefully from their land so that European settlers could come in and claim the land. I also want to take the time to acknowledge that people were stolen from their homes and brought here and forced into labor. They were enslaved so that they could build what we now enjoy as Dallas. I bring this up because while we have inherited these things, right, these are not things that we've created, we do have the ability, we have the responsibility, we have the honor of reducing the harm to help correct the things that have been done so that we can move forward together. So with this, I acknowledge that Dallas is on stolen land, built by stolen people, and that Dallas is not alone in this, as the entire nation shares in this. But we can also share in community, we can share in connection. So with that, I thank you for joining me for the Land and People Acknowledgement.
And we thank you for joining us overall for today's episode. We have so many people that have been so supportive, and we want to thank you for that. We want to say thank you to the Dallas Opera staff and leadership, of course, at all times, particularly our friend and colleague, David Lomeli.
Hey, David.
Always got to give our boy a shout out. And so, with that, we're going to jump in today's show and introduce today's guest. This man, I would say, we always say that people are special and all this kind of stuff, but just in the short time that I have gotten to speak with this man and watched him, heard him speak on several occasions, it is a voice that is so incredibly needed right now during the time. And so I will leave it alone, but I want to turn it over to our guest. Sir, will you please tell us who you are, where you're from, etc.?
First of all, I need to give honor and gratitude to just how y'all open this conversation. Okay? Everything about that was right. Thank you so much. I was honored to see it, and you all have set a beautiful example of how I'm going to be doing a lot of these things moving forward. So thank you.
I picked up something from you earlier, so it's okay. That's how we get.
Word up.
Yes. He did that.
Yes.
Good deal. Well, my name is Byron Sanders. I am I am the son of Molly and Richard. I am the husband of Celeste, and I'm the father of Bailey and Bryce. And I am fortunate to be able to serve as a CEO of Big Thought, president and CEO of this organization that is here for this community, been here for this community for over 30 years now, and we continue to be here for this community, even in these weird, strange, but also consequential times. So I'm really excited to be here with y'all here today.
Yes.
Fantastic. And we are happy to have you. It has been long overdue, and we are so glad that you are able to be with us today. So let's just dive right in, because that's what we do. We dive right in. So we know who Byron is, and we have heard a little about him and, Big Thought. Let's just dive into that a little bit. How did you come to the position at Big Thought? We worked with Big Thought for a number of years. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Big Thought. Appreciate you. But can we talk a little bit just about your path to this position? I always like to have people give a little bit background and then sort of how they arrived where they are right now.
Wonderful, absolutely. Big Thought started over 30 years ago, and the exclusive purpose of our being was to bring the arts into the schools. Mm-hmm. And over the years, that purpose actually grew. That scope and scale grew too. And so today we're an organization that in a non-COVID world, our total touch point is about 150,000 kids in the Dallas the North Texas area, working with over 700 partners from organizations like Dallas Opera, in the city of Dallas, Parks and Rec, all the way to community-based neighborhood organizations like Miss Mixon out
Mm-hmm.
there in T.R.
Mm-hmm.
Hoover, in with Teatro Dallas, which is a wonderful organization that has culturally based artistic experiences. And then we've expanded into STEM and tech. We just did a beautiful tech camp with Citibank for targeting, making sure that we were introducing girls to technology and entrepreneurship, girls of color in Dallas. So we have a wide range, but here's what we're here to do. We're here to build the creative muscle
Yes.
and to build social and emotional well-being, and to help ensure that we are centering and creating space for youth voice. Those three things: creativity, social emotional well-being, and youth agency. That's what Big Thought is all about, and we're doing that for a 21st century world. So that's what we do. Now, how did I get here? um, it is a winding road, but I'll give you the short version. I stepped into CEO almost 3 years ago now,
Mm-hmm.
and I was previously the chair elect of the board, and I was actually on the CEO search committee after our previous CEO took a really cool opportunity in New York. And as we were going through, we're asking lots of questions, of course, and then there's always that moment where the person who's interviewing asks the board and asks the interview. They're like, we'll say, "Do you have any questions for us?" They'll say, "Yes." And then they'll say something like, "What's your vision for the organization?" And every time they would ask that question, I would start to riff on just what I saw, what I thought, what I felt like we could do together. And then eventually, one of our fellow committee members was like, "Now, why aren't you actually going out for this opportunity yourself?" That's the thing that has almost gave me permission
Mm-hmm.
to to do something that had been sitting there on my heart and certainly on my mind to do, and it just took a sister to call it out. And I was like, you know what, you're right. Let me be obedient to my
Mm-hmm.
purpose, and move in that direction. And so I threw my name in the hat, and here we are. Before that, like I said, I was on the board. I was in banking. And before that, I had run a foundation, the Foundation for Dallas Independent School District. Before that, I was part of an organization that we actually started as undergraduates when I was at Southern Methodist University. It's called Group Excellence Mentor and Tutoring Company. We grew throughout the state. 2011, we were the fifth fastest growing education company, privately owned in the country, and um, we did great work. So it all connects. It's a contiguous thread, and it goes all the way back to being raised in a household by an educator. My mama retired after 36 years of teaching. Dallas ISD, we go deep, um, and in having the experience where I went to a all black school growing up. They invested in me. They poured in me. I loved who I was. I loved my culture. I learned to just be grounded in who I was, no matter what space I was in. And then eventually, I went to this private school. I took a tour, and a peacock walked by the sidewalk. I'm like, y'all got peacocks out here? And they
Like,
said
oh, okay.
they said yeah. And I was like, is it a special day, or is this just what y'all? Is this how it is?
Y'all do this every day?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I ended up going to Green Hill because I wanted to go to school with the Peacocks.
Yep.
I didn't even know it was a private school. Real talk. I just thought it was a nice magnet school. um, but I went out there, and I was aware of something though. Every day when I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, catch a bus over to West Dallas Boys Club, and they would take me to East Dallas, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd come home, and it'd be late sometimes. I each way there and back across the Trinity,
Mm-hmm.
and I was
Mm-hmm.
palpably aware that I happened to be a kid who was in the right place at the right time to meet the right mentor, who was born to the right mother and father who were willing to make these sacrifices. And I got a wonderful experience that set me up extremely well for the rest of my life, college included.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that that is not a replicable model.
Mm.
I was one kid. Dallas ISD has 155,000 children in it. We're
Mm-hmm.
not even counting the suburbs and,
Right.
kind of the local North Texas area. So how do we build systems where equitable opportunity exists, no matter what your zip code, no matter what your race? And I knew I was going to be part of that story. So all the way back, fast forward, here we are. And I've never been in a place with a team, working with a board that has me as well aligned with my mission
Mm-hmm.
um, um, at this stage in my life. And so I'm excited to be here. And that's how it came to fruition.
We snap.
All the
Snaps.
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 All the snaps.
Yeah.
All right, Quo, there's a lot in that. And I know you heard
Yeah.
it. Go ahead, girl.
Just one, thank you so much just for continuing to stay rooted in who you are,
Hmm.
to continue to pull from a place of love for yourself, for your culture, for your family, for your parents. It's there. And then that is very visible. It's there and people can see it. We can see it, we can feel it in any space at any point in time in engaging with you.
Thank
And
you,
what you
Stephanie.
shared, there's so many things. So I have some questions as well,
Yeah.
but just you talking about your purpose, right? We talking about your
Mhm.
mission,
Mhm.
and we both know that we both love Chadwick. We brought
Look.
him on the show before,
Oh.
and having that purpose, kind of being that essence, what is essential about you,
Yeah.
having that mission drive what you do and who you are. My question is, what other things or what other barriers were kind of in place that prevented you from actually wanting to put your name in the hat to begin with?
Oh, that is a really good question. Um, so if I go back to, I told you about all those different things that I did before.
Mhm.
Ever since I did not talk about my first job out of college. My first job out of college was drug dealing for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. And so, I was a pharmaceutical representative, healthcare representative. And so
Uh-huh.
I'd actually been doing that job since I was in college because I had an internship through Inroads. It was a fantastic organization, got me there. So 3 summers or 2 summers, and then I graduated and had that job coming out. It was
Mm-hmm.
really, really phenomenal opportunity. Company car, I didn't know how much gas cost, and that was back when it was like $5 a gallon. So it was really good benefit situation. Straight up, my daughter was born for $100.
Oh,
I'm counting prenatal all the way to I'm counting the multiple months total $100. Best benefits package I've ever seen in my life.
I
Right?
hear there are places.
Yo,
Right? It's
There-
crazy.
I hear
So,
there are places.
and in spite of that, even when I would come home after a good day, got rep of the quarter, I'm this, young kid out of school doing this grown man job, and I'm like, this is great. And also, I am a husk at the end of the day.
Huh.
I come
mm,
home and I felt like I have not been doing what I was born to do, and I didn't know what that was yet. And I would tell you, it was that sense of incompletion, that sense of not being fulfilled that drove me to try and find out who I was. Because at
Mm-hmm.
first I was asking, what should I be doing? And that answer was figure out first who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through this whole process where I had to identify who am I. I came to my mission statement.
mm,
And the mission of Byron Sanders is to love my God with all my heart and soul, to be the husband, father, son, and brother according to what pleases him, and to work diligently and daily in my most sincere efforts to pursue my appointed purpose with honor, character, bravery, and love. That's my mission statement. And after I got it, obviously faith is deeply a part of mine. It's not for everybody, but it was for me.
Mm-hmm.
Prioritization of what's important, my faith, then my family in a very specific order: husband,
mhm,
father, son, brother. And this is before I had kids when I wrote that. And then the purpose-driven orientation, and then how to walk the pathway: honor, character, bravery, and love. So I got that identity, and notice it didn't have a specific job written in it,
No.
did not have a specific role written in it. What it was is I have to live up to that truth as much as I can, that ideal as much as I can every single day. And I knew that my purpose was connected to creating opportunity, centering young people.
Yes.
Um, and that's what led me to every single choice, including going back into banking. And the reason why I went back into banking is because I knew there were some things that I wanted to add to my toolkit so I can have an even more amplified effect in whatever it was for me to do moving forward. Understanding the financial markets, understanding organizations, quite frankly, knowing how to, and having had a leadership opportunity within a large corporate organization gives me currency to step into some rooms that I might not have otherwise been able to step into.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things come together to create the opportunity for me to move. Now, why I might not have done it before is because, you know, you got a plan. You got your little 5-year plan, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna do this, 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 and that. And when this opportunity came up, it wasn't what I had written down.
Mm.
But I will tell you, the experiences that I had earlier in life put me in a position to look at this moment in time with a lot more flexibility than I probably would have otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had that mission statement, I squared my life against it, and I used it as my filter. And when I prayed about it, meditated, thought about it, reflected, I recognized this is the place for Byron, the identity that I just spoke to you about, to move. And I did, and here we are.
Praise the Lord. That's whew, that's fire. That's fire
Thank
for
you,
real.
sis. Shoot, you telling me? Like
I mean, that's
it was a journey. I'm gonna say
It was a journey.
it
Yeah.
was a journey. Yeah.
And it's legit. I always say, like, that's
yeah.
dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's legit. And then it's so powerful because it's something that one should be done, but you have to have the courage to do that. You have to have the courage, you have to have the humility, you have to have the determination to do that. And I say this because this extends into what our missions are in our arts organizations, what our purpose is within our communities as arts organizations. You have to have the humility, the courage, you have to have the discipline, you have to have the determination in order to do that. You have your mission, and if that mission is not aligning with what you're doing, then some things have to shift. And then it's also a matter of understanding when that shift is necessary and what tools need to be in place in order for you to take advantage of the shift. We're all in a shift right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everybody's in a shift in some of these shifts. So we can take the time to look. We have to take the time, because that's what matters, to look and see what is most important, what we prioritize as organizations, as individuals as well, and then how we go about moving and aligning within that mission. And technically, that's how we're supposed to go about doing our work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
supposed to.
Yeah, that's how we're
supposed to.
supposed
Yeah,
to go
that's
about doing our work.
Yeah.
But it's the shift, it's the determination, it's the knowing of self. And even if not knowing, it's the seeking of self that provides that journey, that provides that clarity, that provides that purpose. So there's so much in what you said. Thank you for answering my question.
mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, well, why didn't you?
I mean, we could close the show out right there. Well, a good night, everybody.
Find
We
your
did
purpose.
good. You know,
Yeah, that's funny.
because we could do it in, we could do the whole show on that, because even right now you have organizations wrestling with themselves, and entire industries wrestling with themselves, saying, what are we doing here? And COVID has snatched the curtain back, you know what I mean, and made us really have to do some self-examination. And we're feeling it in the arts world right now of one, what are we doing as service organizations? What does that look like? So this is real. I mean, it's really real. And I think you said it best. It started with you sitting down and saying, who am I?
Yep.
What do I want to do? And that can be that should be an organizational question,
Yes, sir.
who are
That's
we
right.
as an organization?
That's
What do
right.
we want to do? It really has to go down like that. So I commend you, because I think that is, I know personally, it is a good reminder to me, and it is a needed, um, sort of, and again, and not everybody's going to do everything the same way. Let me be
Of
very clear that
course.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying that everybody's going to do everything the same way.
Right.
But I think starting back with that self-examination, which we talk about on the show all the time, uh, that was the root. Everything that you said was the root of it, and here you are, landing where you are right now. So kudos to you, Byron, for real.
Yo, thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
so I guess that sort of brings me to my next question, because it brings me, and I always ask people in leadership positions, so just get ready.
Yeah.
Um, I want to ask you, how has that informed the way you lead?
Yeah. So one of the biggest value adds to having a articulated, written down, memorized mission statement is, once you internalize it, you just start to use it, right? It just becomes a part of the way that you um, look at the world. And initially you have to be super intentional, and you got to remind yourself and all that stuff. But like, y'all heard me when I said it, like it just
Mhm.
rolls off my tongue because I say it literally all the time, and I use it all the time. And one of the biggest values that I've gotten from it, and probably this is, I did not know that this would be one of the biggest values um, that it brought in knowing your identity and having it written down, is knowing what to say no to.
Mm.
And especially in a world where possibilities are endless,
Mm-hmm.
and they're limitless. And one of the biggest assets to having that kind of imaginative and creative and innovative mind is being able to think outside the box and seeing
Mhm.
pathways where there aren't. And I would say our whole organization
Yes.
that um, character, right? Has
Yes.
that trait. Um, that's good, and it could also be bad, because you can chase so many shiny objects.
Mm-hmm.
And as an organization like Big Thought, we get a lot of calls all the time. People like, yo, I got an idea. Or they're like, fam, here's an opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this happens all the time. Every day I get an email, right? But what's the value of knowing who you are and what you're
Mhm.
called to? And I can tell you that um, you you have the permission to move forward because you have the clarity in knowing what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And it doesn't mean that you don't entertain new ideas and new opportunities, but once you settle on one, because you only have 24 hours, and
Yes.
even I would say you only have so much emotional
Yes.
um, um, you know bandwidth. Because creating drains you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You if you're doing it right, you're pouring yourself into this thing.
Yes.
And so in a moment in time, especially like COVID, when everything that you knew that was rote, that was replicable, that was like clockwork, is gone. Everything is
Yeah.
new.
Mm-hmm.
What you gonna do? And everybody looking at you, they're like, CEO,
Yeah.
who are we?
Listen.
That really is what, like, who are we?
Whew.
We're not the programs, which, or I would suggest organizations are not their programs.
No.
If we're not our programs, who are we? And based on that answer, what are we gonna do? Right?
Mm.
So with that, having gone through an exercise where we had actually identified who we are, we have a strategic plan, we have a North Star. All youth in marginalized communities are equipped to imagine and create their best lives and world. We have a strategic plan that actually spans 10 years in multiple phases. And with all of that said, we kind of knew what direction we still needed to be headed in, and we knew how to flex.
Mm.
and then we knew how to create within that space, right? So
Mm.
here we are today. We're doing a lot of different things. We've gone virtual where we needed to go virtual, and we actually have in-person socially distant models where we need to have in-person socially distant models. It took a long time to get to the budget
Mhm.
because there's a whole lot of answers that we needed to get from external stakeholders beyond ourselves, funders, city institutions,
Mhm.
district, all of that stuff. We had to get those answers, but once we got it, we settled in. This is what we're going to do, and we're leaning into that. We're moving forward. We have some amazing things queued up that we're really excited about. Some of them I can talk very publicly about. Some of them I gotta
Yeah.
foreshadow a little bit, but it's some exciting work.
Yeah.
And we think exciting for our partners because it empowers them with some new assets that they can leverage in this moment in time. And so we're really excited about a number of different things that we're doing, but we knew where to go because we knew who we were.
Mhm.
Well, I can personally say, just in working with members of your team, it's very clear, and it's I mean, we like I said, we've been a partner for a long time, and I've seen the evolution. Quo's seen the evolution. We've seen it in front of our very eyes, so
Beautiful.
we know what you can do, and then we know you were ready to flex.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can expect us to be right there with you. We're gonna flex with you.
Love it. That's what I'm talking about. That's how we do it. We
We're gonna
rise.
flex every time.
Every
So
time.
you just
Yes.
tell us we'll be ready. We're working on something right now. So
I love
that's
it.
it. So I love it when you say that, and I think so many people can learn from that. And just we did an episode that was specifically for artists last week, and so that's I don't know what you quote, but that's what came to mind when he said we were ready to flex.
Ready to
We
flex.
say
Yeah.
and so like
And even
that's
the what are we going to do?
yes.
Something. What do you mean? What changed? I remember that was one of the questions that we had to ask ourselves in the education department. It's like we only have this wonderful summer program where people come in. I'm talking like tears. People love opera now. All of
Mhm.
this.
Yep.
Kids who do not speak when they get there are leaving, singing songs. It's just this wonderful
High fiving us, just
Come on.
yeah.
where opera's not at the center. The kids are at the center, right?
Yes.
Happening. And so there was this question, of course, because of the pandemic and the way things are shifting. It's like, well, what do we do now? And I just remember asking, what do you mean? What changed? What were we about before? That's
right.
what we're going to be about now.
There
So
you
how
go.
do we get to that? How do
Yeah.
we get to serving? How do we get to fulfilling whatever need that is?
That's
And I
right.
kept telling the education team, I kept telling them over and over again, because again, I know that leadership look all too well. What we gonna do? I already know. We know it too well. And I said, what have we been doing? We were serving kids.
Right.
Yeah.
We're introducing kids to opera. We are backing teachers. That has not changed. We
Yeah.
just got to figure out what they need, And then it was a question of looking at the team and saying, what do y'all want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And using those human resources and that creativity and that
Yeah.
innovation.
That's
And
right.
so I am thrilled to hear you say that, because that flexibility and that innovation and that creativity is just, and I could tell because it moves through you. Even when you speak,
Yeah.
it's palatable. You know what I mean? Like it's palatable. You can feel it. So,
Thank you.
like I don't have any more questions about your leadership style because I know what it is now. Quo, you have something?
My not so much a question, but just kind of an observation. And for those who don't know about Big Thought, go and check it out. It's definitely one of the coolest places ever. I mean, you walk in, you can write on the walls. Like, how great is
It's
that?
true. That's right.
I was a teaching artist for Big Thought for one time.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's right.
At Lee Tot Center. And so I was a visual artist, teaching artist. And just to have an organization that thrives on creativity, but not just thrives on creativity, that thrives on possibility. And possibility for youth, which is like extended possibility, if you will.
Yeah.
It just builds up on it, but to do so not in a way that dismisses logic, not in a way that dismisses strategy, not in a way that dismisses being effective or actually being able to produce, but there's this beautiful combination of what it means as adults to be creative in a way that empowers creativity in others.
Yes.
We're supposed to be doing that in the arts.
Come on.
We're supposed to be doing that in the arts. Just a reminder, and I tell staff so often, y'all, we play pretend in a hole in the wall. For real, for real.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, when it comes
And
down
a hole
to
in the floor.
theater and
The
performance,
pit.
there's a hole in the wall, there's a
Let's
hole
just be
in
real. That's what it is.
Like,
got to. And I remember we had a recent episode with Phil Chan, and he was saying how we, as artists, you get to play. So go and play. Go and find that creativity. Go and put that into place. But it's necessary that as we do that, we know who we are.
That's right.
Know what that mission is. We know what that purpose is. And you can always rotate around that center, right?
Yeah.
Around that central point. You can always move around it because we have the flexibility, we have the creativity to do so. But it's important that we know who we are, why we're here, what our purpose is. And then that we're willing to take that journey knowing that it may not be what we thought it was like 2 years ago.
That's right.
Pandemic.
Expect it to change.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Byron, I just want to go to your point. I mean, you took the helm of an organization because you said something about your programs.
Mm-hmm.
You took the head of an organization that has thriving, fantastic programs.
Mm-hmm.
So can we talk a little bit about what it looked like to have to shift some of those things? Because we know your programs, we're part of some of your programs. Like, so my thing is that that COVID shift, that's the best way I can come up to talk about it. But at pandemic shuffle, we all had to do it. It's not a dance. We probably would have enjoyed it more if it was a dance.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Can we talk about your move your move to that?
So what we did was first we settled and make sure all the team was all right. Like we said, all right, let's get us squared up. So we even have space to think about this stuff. Because we went home March 13th is the day that would live in infamy, and that was everything before that was BC, right? And everything since BC before Corona, and now we got a different world that we're living in right now. So knowing that, we had to make some tough calls on the front end and things that were hard. With the stop of in the middle of school, we had kids go away during spring break and they didn't come back. And it was the same for a lot of our team. We actually had to lay off our on-campus team. That was over 60 people. And these are folks who've been with us for a long time. Our teaching artists, our site guides, our site coordinators, like people who've been with us. And we built and invested in each other and built relationships and all that stuff. We had to let go of that team. Very hard to do. But as we gathered ourselves and we started looking ahead, we said, okay, let's ask a different kind of question. Since we know that young people are the center of everything that we do, in this moment in time, what do they need right now? It's not as much academic enrichment. More than anything, they just needed to know that we were there. They needed to know that somebody that they could count on in this world of shifting sands, that somebody was there. And we made sure that we had the ability to do that. We connected with our team, we connected with our families virtually, phone calls, reaching out. Eventually, we set up a method where everybody was going to digital, and we actually did that as well. We also created a system of, we call them creative kits. And we tried to replicate the Thriving Minds on campus 3 to 6 after school program, the traditional model. We put that into a mobile model that would get sent to families at home. And so many families were so grateful for having something that wasn't on a screen, that leveraged things on a screen, but with real relationships. Because kids got to log in and have SEL experiences. One of the boxes that we sent home, my kids got some too. It had some dirt in it. I'm like, why are we putting dirt? Oh, planting things. Okay, got it. Science. Okay, cool. Right. I was like, what's our quality control? We just making this up? No.
Planting beans.
Right.
You know that science experiment. We all had to do it.
Exactly. And so we
Right.
said we had those and they loved it. But one of the coolest things about it was we actually had the pickup spots. So the families would drive through and they get to see their site coordinator. They would get to see their instructor. And
Mhm.
that was almost as important as the content themselves. So we made sure that we did things to maintain relationships in a time where it's very hard to do so. The other thing that we did, which was also really important, was we we made sure that while we were making these changes, um, they weren't top down.
Mm,
We we polled our families on multiple occasions to ask them literally what they need. Yeah, there's actually even a tool that we have up. We did a summer needs survey that we partnered with. Big Thought kind of kicked it off and did the analytics, but we had United Way, we did Dallas After School, Parks
Mhm.
and Rec, a number of other folks, and State Fair, Texas. We asked families what they needed. That was one of the coolest things that we could have done
Yes.
because when we went to our Corona strategy, the circle of who became our target market grew.
mm.
Because what we said was if we're going to serve youth well, they're at home.
Yeah.
Talk about
Who's
it.
at home with them?
Talk
Yeah.
about it.
The families. And so if we're going to serve youth well, we need to be asking families what they need. And in doing so, we're going to be able to be a better partner and ultimately more effective in helping reach young people in the moment in time where they need us to think very differently about how we've ever done it before.
Mm,
And so getting in touch with, hearing from our families meant everything.
Mhm.
And it gave us really important information when information was scarce or rapidly changing because there was a gap. We saw what the CDC was saying, we saw what the city was saying, we saw what the district was saying. We didn't know what families were saying. And
Yeah.
all of our partners didn't know what families were saying. So they're like,
mhm,
okay, do I set up in-person programming? Will they show up? Will they log in? Are they
Yeah.
willing to pay? How much are they willing to pay? Like, what are we going to do? I know what I'm allowed to do, but what should I do?
mhm.
And so, in making sure that we expanded our circle to include families more so than ever before, we became better equipped to deliver what folks need and also help share information with our partners so that the ecosystem could deliver what our families
Yeah.
need. Yeah.
I'm
And
like, yeah, doc.
here's the thing. And as a partner,
Yeah.
I can tell you it helped us.
Good.
Okay.
That's really
I
good.
can vouch for that. Quo, did it help us?
Oh, absolutely.
It helped
Okay.
us. So
Even
Beautiful.
the meetings, the most recent meeting that we had, just
yes.
having the additional direction,
Good.
knowing what to do, but that's because you were willing to expand what mattered. And
Yeah.
then you were willing to go and say, these families and helping these families, that's what means everything. Like
Yeah.
just that meant everything. Whereas so often we're like the art, but the art,
But the art,
but
but our
tradition,
programs. Yeah.
Yes.
but our
But the
programs,
program.
but our
Yeah.
staple identity,
Yeah.
but our legacy. Nah,
Nah.
no. These things. No. And so just being able to expand thinking so that you can center what matters, right? There's this
Mm.
expansion so that you can have a clearer view of what should be at the center so that you can have that laser focus on what actually matters. And it's so important.
Yep.
In everything that you've shared, it's also the fact that you created community. You weren't just like business as usual.
Yeah.
Let's just go. You said one of the first things you did was make sure that your people were okay.
Yeah.
To ensure that your people are okay, and then to ensure that what actually drives the work that you do are those who you want to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. That's it.
That's
That's it.
that's
Yeah.
legit.
This is so
So,
legit. Like I can't even say enough about it. That's just it's that cooler heads. And I remember those earlier meetings with you all. Like you would pull the partners together and you would tell
Yeah.
us what's going on and all this kind of stuff. And I remember you came on to one of the meetings and you spoke to us for about 15 minutes
Mm-hmm.
and it was good to know that somebody was doing the same thing that everybody else was doing, was trying to figure out what to do, and that somebody else was using the different tools that were available to them and trying to figure it out. And it just, that stuff is so huge right now, particularly in needing community and needing connection, not just us to the community we serve, but amongst our own community of service, of trying to figure out what we're doing together, as partners. It's so huge. And when you said we checked on our people first, that's a big thing, because you checked on your own staff, but then you started checking out the partners.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
That's a big thing. And I've been asked similar questions, and the first thing I did was start talking to our partners that we had worked with for a long time. How y'all doing?
Yeah. How y'all doing?
And to continue to check in and say, how are y'all doing? What can we do? And then another thing that you said that just struck me is when you said, you did phone calls, you did all the, whatever it took to make contact and to stay in contact, to let them know that somebody was there.
Mm-hmm.
It's so what is needed right now. So yeah, I have no other words. Like, I'm stuttering, but it's so big right now. That SEL is not just for kids.
Well, I say all the time, it's not for students.
It's
not for students.
It's
it is,
really
but it's not for students.
Look, this is for human
I'm
beings.
like, it's not just kids.
Yeah, it's humanity. Like,
that's it.
One of the things y'all know it well, but I always want to make sure I connect the dots. It's very interesting. Winston Churchill, I was listening to him. Well, obviously I was not listening to him. I was reading about him. They continue to make investments in the arts, in the middle of rations, in the middle of metal shortages, and then they got these sculptures, they're like, and one of his senior leaders said, why are we doing another metal sculpture unveiling when we are trying to find enough metal for bullets? We're fighting for our lives here.
Yeah.
And he says something, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, if we can't continue to invest in the things that display and help us live and experience our collective culture and humanity, then why are we fighting in the first place?
Yep. Why are we fighting?
Why don't we just absorb into something else, like, and let go of all these principles of humanity and all of that stuff? Why are we even doing this in the first place?
Why do it?
So, it's kind of the same thing here, right? When people think, why the arts? Why creative? Why culture? Why cultural experiences? Because humanity. That's why. Because we're human beings, and the best way for us to tap into that, for us to be able to explore that, for us to build those muscles, quite frankly, in relating and in empathetically connecting to other people, is through arts and culture. And what too often has happened is, sometimes it's actually been our fault. People in the space, like you said, it's for art's sake.
Yeah.
Like art's for art's sake. You're like, well,
it's fine, but don't.
Yeah, that's Brom said it. Brom said art for art's sake.
Right.
That's.
Yeah, this computer nerd over here is having a hard time understanding you right now. So what? Right? Like, to what end? But what we have been really intentional about is helping illustrate the degree to which Dallas Opera, the ability for somebody to lean into and experience, and then also, become a student of and eventually master a craft, like that has transferable skills development that's actually critical for a 21st century world.
Yes.
I mean, because here's the truth. Here's the truth of the matter. We're in the 21st century, y'all.
Most of the jobs haven't been invented.
Every industry, every sector is being affected by technology, automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning. The things that we used to say, you know, oh, well, I'm a good numbers guy. Well, so is IBM supercomputer Watson. That's a good numbers guy right there. Yeah, and you ain't better than him, right?
Yeah.
So
And then,
so
and, I'm on vacation.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, these algorithms ain't. I mean, these algorithms writing other algorithms. So so your ability to just do the hard, concrete stuff
Yeah.
is very minimal right now. And when we're looking at the value and the currency of what we need in our places and spaces, what we need is a creative. I need an innovator. I need somebody who can take these analytics and know what to do with them, make beautiful music with them, and get me a solution, right?
Mm.
And so that's a part of your frontal lobe that gets flexed when you're listening to music, when you're writing music, when you're learning how to do this and or that, and you have to create something that wasn't here before. That's what's
Tell the story,
needed.
Byron. Come on.
And so
Byron.
we're saying, why do we need Dallas Opera right now? Why should we be making sure that it thrives through COVID-19? Why should we make these investments? Is because of that.
Yeah.
It's because of that.
Pass around the plate.
And that has been your arts education endorsement, folks. No, there's so much in that. And one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about is tying the art to everything in people's lives. And I haven't been stumped yet.
That's right.
We have this thing that we would do with kids in any space and say, you know, what's a job or a career, skill, talent that you wouldn't think is needed in the opera hall? I'll wait.
They're like,
And then I haven't been stumped yet. Quo hasn't been stumped yet.
yeah.
I had even one, I remember one kid, well, you don't need, well, a police officer. And I'm like, well, outside of the wind spear, you know, there are people that are down there directing traffic. If somebody gets hurt, we're calling the police. Like it's all of these things. Fire, and the fireman was a good one. I was like, we actually have a fire marshal anytime there is anything on stage, especially if there's a fire in the show. Fire marshal.
Yeah.
You have a fire marshal in the building.
Sometimes there are actual pyrotechnics involved in the productions themselves.
There's just so much to it, and it could feed so many things. And when you're looking at the workforce of the 21st century, we're training people, for students and youth, for jobs that don't even exist yet.
This is the thing that I keep telling people. I was like, yo, Gallup, McKinsey, LinkedIn, World Economic Forum, they've gone and asked the people doing the hiring. They're like, what do y'all need? The number 1, 2, or 3 answer is creativity.
Yes.
And if they don't say creativity, they say something like critical thinking, problem solving. These are the creative domains. These are the design thinking spaces. And the truth is, if you go too hard on your hard skills and you make that the thing, fam, we got a new code 5 years later. What's up?
Yeah.
What you gonna do now?
That's it.
Right? And so if you do not have the ability to use a creative mind and to approach things with a design thinking framework and to understand that no, don't try to avoid change because change is coming. Get on that wave and ride it. If you can't surf, then you're going to have a problem in the 21st century world.
Yes. And the thing is, if you can't surf at first, boogie board, do something. Okay. But you gotta ride that wave.
Yes. Yes.
But it is not a joke. And the thing is, Byron, we got a wave back in March. It was March 11th for Dallas Opera. We got sent home March 11th.
Yeah, that's right.
It was that wave shook, roared. I mean, everything to the core. We were just about to open a production of Don Carlo, and we went home. You know what I mean? Like, this is, I don't think people understand that. Like I said, people were in the middle of living their lives.
Yeah.
And going to their work, whatever their work was, and then poof.
Kristian, when we look back and we tell the story of 2020, our grandkids, you know, they gonna be like, "Oh, granddaddy, I'm bored." Oh, you're bored?
Oh, you,
You're bored now? Is that what you said? Boy, I was quarantined.
yes, you don't know board like I
You
know
ain't no
board.
bored.
You don't know bored. Have
I
you
was
ever
trying to
had
make
to?
opera to happen on a screen for kids
Yes.
your age.
Did you watch all of the sitcoms, all the episodes 3 times?
Three
Three.
times.
You're not
Three.
bored. You don't know what bored is.
I finished all of Netflix.
They moved the Olympics. What's wrong with you? I finished all of Netflix. Do you know how big? Y'all know what Netflix is. You
Yeah,
know what? Well,
exactly.
you read about it.
You read about it. But
Yeah.
seriously, that is the real talk. And the thing is that this entire time, organizations like yours, organizations like ours, our
Yeah.
own independent thinking and our own consulting, whatever we've been doing, we have had to pivot and turn and twist. But I want to ask you about this because we talked about a
Yeah,
little bit about
please.
connection because and it just actually brings me into a good one. That was a good laugh though, because it's gonna be real. But how important in all of this
Mhm.
has it been to keep that line of humanity through all of this? Because there has been a lot happening
Yes.
that could rob that.
I'm gonna tell you, everybody who's had to lead an organization, be part of anything, we should all get some sort of medal, badge, like a tour of duty,
I agree.
commendation,
Yeah.
because it's not just the pandemic. We're in the middle of the next civil rights movement.
Mm.
We are in the middle of an economic crisis, the likes of which we've never seen before. Like, give me one of those.
Yeah.
Just one, right? Like I don't need all three. I don't need pandemic, civil rights movement, and the economic unprecedented crisis. I prefer one.
Yeah.
Let me work with that. We're getting all of these compounded things, and we can't be together.
Mm.
Yes.
So the truth is, it's been hard. It's been
Mm.
hard on our people. It's been hard personally. Like myself, like our family lost people.
Mm-hmm.
My father-in-law, who was very much like
Mm.
a father to me, like he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer like 2 weeks before we all went home,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and then he passed away about 4 weeks ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So all of that stuff happens, and we're like, "Hey, did you see that email I sent you? Did you check? You didn't say, okay, well, how do we, in the middle of experiences the likes of which nobody alive has ever seen before, how do we contend with all of that and still be there for somebody else, which is what our organizations are calling us to do, right? To be
Yeah.
there for our families, be there for our kids. The only way you can do that is by, in some way, form, or fashion, creating some semblance of a support system for people to be human in the middle of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
The operative word has been grace.
Oh.
Yes, Lord.
I've used the word grace at work more than I
Yes, we have to.
have ever before I ever thought I would. But I have been, because and I've asked for grace personally as a leader.
Mm.
I've encouraged and reminded our team that we need to be giving it. We need to be giving it to each other as a team. We need to be giving it to our families.
Yeah.
We need to
Yes.
be giving it to our stakeholders. If people didn't meet that deadline and get that thing to you by the time that you thought you actually may have genuinely needed it to be there, understand that that person is probably going through something as well.
Yeah.
I will say we haven't done nearly enough, because I don't think our systems allow us to do enough
Mm.
for our people. But we've given we've created some times off. We've created means for us to connect. We have these virtual happy hour connections. We have a Monday mindful moment. Um, every Monday, there's 30 minutes where whoever wants to can get on, and we do yoga and meditation and mindful practices. We talk about things that we're grateful for. We connect. And then we have a coffee one. If people can't make that the happy hour, we do a connection with the coffee opportunity. We're trying to stay together in the middle of this, so that we can recognize and continue to see each other's humanity in the middle of having to get a lot of work done at the same time. I wish that we can embrace the principle of 50-50 balance. But the truth is, life doesn't come at us like that.
No.
The truth is, sometimes it is a sprint, but what I prefer is a relay race, where at some point you can pass your baton and take a breath. And we're trying that. We're doing our darndest to try it in the middle of the circumstances. But that has been what we've been trying to do, Kristian, Quo. That's been our sincere effort. So yeah.
No,
and I would say you're doing it, right? It's possible.
You are.
As long as that purpose is there. That purpose drives you to do that sprint a little longer than you expected.
Yeah.
That discipline puts you there to do that sprint, but then to be able to pass that baton, but then to continue with them, right? Until it's time to pass it on to the next.
Yeah, because we're still in a race.
Yeah, still
there. Just need to catch
I
my
was like,
breath
we're in the middle. I don't know if we're in the middle.
Look, right?
The word said it's given to the one that endures to the end.
That's right. That's right.
So that's the key right now. I was going to ask you what your message to others would be, but I think we got the message, Paul. Paul, I'm out of questions. My cup runneth over.
Yeah.
Cool.
So positive notes.
Yeah, I mean, this is about the time, y'all. We go on to positive notes. Quo, take it away.
Absolutely. Positive notes. I'm going to start with gratitude. And I encourage everyone to start every day with gratitude, start every encounter with gratitude. There's so much richness and connection that will refill our cups as we pour for others. So as we hold space for others, we have to be willing to accept space from others as well. So gratitude, always gratitude. And listen to Byron.
Yes.
Listen to Byron. But in navigating what we are to do, this is to our artists, this is to our arts administrators, to our leaders, to our patrons, to people in other fields. Look at purpose and then give yourself grace and understanding what it means to navigate within purpose, knowing that it shifts, knowing that connection, that connecting through humanity, that is the core. That is the core of everything that we are doing, especially in these creative spaces. Yes, the arts course built on creativity, but so is everything else. There's creativity in every single moment of our lives. We just have to be willing to make sure that we understand how it rolls into our purpose.
Yeah.
So take heart. Know that you're not alone in this. As I always say, you do not have to do it alone. And then once you start to make those connections, once you start to center that purpose, once you start to seek it relentlessly, it becomes contagious in that it expands to everything and everyone you encounter. So with that, those are my positive notes. Again, listen to Byron.
Definitely listen.
As always, reach out if you have questions. But yeah, those are my positive notes for this very positive and dope episode.
Yeah, this is a great episode. I mean, we have so many of our we've had a lot of great episodes. Actually, all of our episodes have been great. There's always something new that comes out of it, and it, for me, so I appreciate you being here. We appreciate you, Byron. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, listen, y'all are fantastic. This has been one of my favorite conversations I've been able to have. Maybe since quarantine. So this has been really, really good. Y'all are doing a phenomenal job. You've created something really special here. I'm really just grateful to be a part of it. Gratitude.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in. Folks, remember, be bold, be brave, be creative,
Yes.
and all of those things. And folks, we hope you will tune in next time. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you on the next round. Peace.
Have a good one.